Rain polished the church steps until they shone like black glass. Inside, candles trembled against stained windows, and 100 patient faces waited beneath the ceiling. At the altar, Elena Vale stood wrapped in white silk. The organ swelled behind her, solemn and certain, yet every note seemed to tighten around her ribs like thread pulling a wound closed too soon. At the edge of the aisle, her fiancé wore a practiced smile. Then Elena saw the cuff link at his sleeve, silver, engraved with a wolf's head she had seen only once before, on the hand of the man who had threatened her father in a locked office 3 nights earlier. Something cold moved through her. Not fear, recognition. The priest began the vows, but his voice receded until it sounded underwater. Elena saw again the shattered glass hidden in his office trash can, the way he had refused to meet her eyes when she asked what happened. She heard Marcus whisper on the phone last night in the garden, "Transfer it before midnight." No witnesses. When he returned to bed, he smelled not of bourbon and cedar, but of rain, diesel, and gun oil. Elena had told herself wedding nerves could make any shadow look like a blade. She had told herself love meant trust, and trust meant silence. But now the wolf's head glinted again, and across the crowded pews she noticed a stranger standing near the side exit, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark suit that didn't fit the room because it fit danger too well. He watched Marcus, not the bride. When Marcus reached for Elena's hand, the stranger gave the smallest shake of his head. The church inhaled as one body. Elena did the only unforgivable thing left to a woman expected to smile. She stepped back. Silk whispered over marble. Marcus blinked. Confusion flashed, then calculation. She turned, gathered her skirt in both fists and ran. Rain hit her face hard and icy, needling her makeup, soaking pearls, turning satin shoes treacherous on the steps. She nearly fell. A black car lurched from the curb. Somewhere behind her, Marcus shouted her name, not like a plea but a command. Elena crossed the street blindly, horns screaming, and collided with a wall of muscle and wet wool. Strong hands caught her before the pavement did. She looked up into the face of the scarred stranger from the church. His jaw was bruised yellow at the edges. "If you want to live," he said, "come with me now." He dragged her into a narrow lane between a florist and a shuttered pharmacy just as the black car mounted the curb where she had been standing. Men jumped out. Not wedding guests. Too fast. Too focused. One scanned the street while another lifted a pistol from beneath his coat. Elena froze. His wrist twisted the gun from the second. Elena clamped both hands over her mouth. The stranger moved like someone long familiar with pain, wasting nothing, every strike brief and ugly. Within seconds, one attacker lay groaning in gutter water and the other fled back toward the car. Tires screamed away. The stranger breathed hard, gun lowered, rain streaming off his hair. "You shouldn't have come to the wedding," Elena whispered. "I was trying to get you out before the vows made you harder to save." He gave his name only after they stole a cab and switched twice more, Rowan Thorne. Elena knew it at once, though she pretended she didn't. His name had drifted through the city's rich houses for years like smoke from a fire no one admitted seeing. A man connected to men who solved problems by making them disappear. Yet when he handed her a thermal blanket from the van's back seat, he turned his face away to give her privacy while she wrung rain from her veil. "Why would Marcus want me dead?" she asked. Rowan started the van. Wipers scraped at the storm. "Because your father was supposed to sign over control of Vale shipping this morning. After the wedding, Marcus would have legal access to everything. Accounts, routes, manifests." Elena stared. "That's business, not murder." Rowan's laugh held no humor. "Your family's shipping company has been used to move more than cargo." He drove her to a safe house that looked like an abandoned cinema at the edge of the river district. Upstairs, in the projection booth, Rowan had built a hidden room with medical kits, radios, canned food, maps, and a rifle case Elena tried not to look at. He cleaned the cut on his knuckles in silence while Elena stood in a gown that belonged to another life and watched disbelief harden into anger. "You could be lying," she said. "Maybe Marcus sent you to scare me back into him." Rowan met her stare. If Marcus had sent me, you'd already be in his car. He tossed her a phone. On the screen was a video timestamped 40 minutes before the ceremony. Marcus in a warehouse beside men unloading crates stamped as medical supplies. One crate split. Inside lay pistols wrapped in plastic. Marcus turned toward the camera, wolf cuff links bright under fluorescent light. Elena felt the room tilt. Rowan hesitated. I worked for your father once. Until I learned what he was hiding. The hours before dawn stretched thin and strange. Elena changed into clothes scavenged from a donation box in the theater basement. Black jeans, a gray sweater, boots 2 sizes too big. When she emerged, Rowan was soldering a tracker jammer with the concentration of a surgeon. He taught her how to hold the radio, how to keep her breathing quiet near windows, how to distinguish sirens from engines slowing to listen. In return, she told him things she had never said aloud. How her mother died when she was 16 and her father started treating affection like a negotiation. How Marcus had seemed, at first, like escape in a tailored suit. How lonely people often mistook being chosen for being loved. Rowan listened without interruption. Near sunrise, he admitted he had once moved weapons for Vale shipping, believing the buyers were resistance groups overseas. Then a container opened in the wrong port, and children died in a school shelled by ammunition he had escorted. He had spent 3 years trying to burn the network down from the inside. Elena looked at the scar through his eyebrow. And Marcus, Rowan said. Marcus enjoys the fire. Morning brought proof that running had changed nothing. Every screen in the city carried Elena's face. Marcus stood before cameras with carefully reddened eyes, pleading for her safe return. He even praised Rowan by name as a known criminal who had infiltrated the ceremony. Then her father appeared beside Marcus, shaken, pale, silent. On his wrist was a hospital band. Rowan noticed it too. He's being controlled, Elena said. Rowan nodded. Or dosed. She turned from the television, fury tearing through the last of her hesitation. We get him out. Rowan studied her. That house will be locked down. Then we stop asking permission to survive. Something like pride crossed his face, quick and rare. They spent the afternoon planning around blueprints of the Vale estate. Security gates, camera angles, panic room, private dock. Rowan expected Elena to wait in the van while he went inside. Elena answered by taking apart his spare pistol, watching his surprise, then reassembling it from memory. Her father had taught her target shooting when she was 12, back before he began measuring every relationship in leverage. I'm not porcelain, she said. Rowan's mouth curved once. No, he replied. You definitely aren't. Night came dressed in fog off the river. They entered the estate through the greenhouse, cutting a panel of glass and slipping past rows of orchids ghostly in moonlight. Elena's childhood home seemed smaller than memory and infinitely colder. On the second floor they found her father in his study, wrists bound to a chair, a signature folder open on the desk beside him. Dad. He lifted his head, eyes wet and wild. You shouldn't be here. Rowan cut the restraints while Elena searched drawers for the ledger her father once swore never left the house. Instead she found passports, offshore account codes, shipping routes, and a photograph of herself as a child tucked beside a loaded revolver. Her father grabbed her hand. Marcus answers to men worse than me, he rasped. Take the ledger from the dock office. Burn the rest. Footsteps thundered in the hall. Too late. The study doors flew open. Marcus entered with 4 armed men and a smile so calm it felt inhuman. There you are, he said softly, as if she had merely wandered away from a reception. I was beginning to worry our honeymoon might be delayed. What followed moved too fast for thought. Rowan flipped the desk on its side. Wood exploded under gunfire. Elena dragged her father to the floor as glass rained from the cabinets. One guard rushed left. Rowan shot him center mass. Another came through the smoke and caught Rowan across the shoulder with a bullet that spun him back. Marcus retreated into the hall, shouting for the dock team. Elena crawled through splinters, seized the revolver from the desk drawer, and fired at the chandelier chain above the doorway. Brass snapped. Crystal crashed down in a blinding avalanche, taking 2 men with it. Move! Rowan barked. They ran. Through the gallery. Down the servants' stairs. Out into the salt-thick dark toward the private dock where waves hammered pilings like drums of war. Men poured from the boathouse. Flashlights sliced the fog. Rowan shoved Elena and her father behind stacked fuel drums, then charged the nearest attacker with a knife drawn from his boot. Short bursts, grunts, muffled shots, chaos. Elena found the dock office key in her father's pocket, sprinted bent low through the spray, and kicked open the office door. Inside, beneath a false floor panel, lay the ledger and a drive sealed in plastic. Behind her, footsteps. Marcus filled the doorway, rain silvering his hair, pistol raised. For one suspended second, the storm held its breath with her. Marcus looked almost tender, which made him monstrous. "You were never supposed to see this part," he said. "I was trying to give you a beautiful life." Elena kept the ledger behind her back. "Built on graves." His expression thinned. "Built on reality." Your father understood. Rowan understands better than anyone. He stepped closer. "You think he saved you because he's noble? He stayed near you because he needs that ledger. He needs revenge. Once he gets it, you become weight." The words struck exactly where doubt still lived. From outside came a cry, then silence. Marcus saw the hesitation and smiled. "Come with me, Elena. I can still protect you." But in that instant she remembered Rowan in the church, shaking his head when she still had the choice to remain blind. She remembered the way he listened, the way he placed himself between her and every gun, the way dangerous men rarely apologize, yet he had apologized for a world that broke children he never knew. Elena lifted the revolver. Her hands stopped shaking. "No," she said. Marcus fired first. The shot tore through the ledger's edge. Elena fired back. Marcus stumbled, hit in the side, fury replacing charm. He lunged anyway, crashing into her, both of them slamming against the desk as the pistol skidded away. They fought in the cramped office with the ugly desperation of people who knew only one future could leave breathing. Marcus was stronger than she remembered, panic lending him cruelty. He drove her into shelves, fingers closing around her throat, whispering that love always belonged to whoever held on hardest. Elena clawed for air, for wood, for anything. Her hand found the plastic-sealed drive. She smashed it into his temple. He reeled. She snatched a flare gun from the emergency rack and fired point-blank into his chest. Red light erupted. Marcus staggered backward, screaming, his jacket blooming with fire as he crashed through the doorway onto the rain-slicked dock. Gasoline from a split drum streamed under him. Rowan appeared through smoke and fog, blood soaking his shirt, and dragged Elena clear just as flames raced across the boards. The blast punched the night open. Heat thundered over the water. When Elena looked back, the dock office was an inferno collapsing into black waves, and Marcus was gone beneath it. Sirens rose in the distance, multiplied, closing in from the river road. Her father sank onto the stones, face ashen. "The police won't know who to trust," Rowan said, pressing the half-burned ledger into Elena's hands. "But the drive fragments your testimony. It's enough to start." Elena turned to him. Blood ran steadily from his shoulder. "You're not dying on me." Rowan gave a tired smile. That sounded dangerously close to concern. By dawn, the storm had spent itself. Federal agents, Coast Guard officers, and 2 investigators from a task force Rowan had been feeding for months swarmed the estate and riverfront. Containers were seized. Names surfaced. Bank accounts froze. Elena gave statement after statement until language itself felt worn thin, and still she kept looking toward the ambulance where Rowan sat on an open tailgate while a medic stitched his shoulder. Before he was led away, he touched Elena's cheek with shaking fingers. "I taught you how to survive," he said. "You taught me what survival cost." It was not absolution, but it was the first honest thing he had given her in years. When Elena crossed the muddy grass to Rowan, the sunrise broke over the river in bands of pale gold, turning the wrecked dock into something almost holy. He looked at her wedding dress bundled in an evidence bag nearby, then at the borrowed clothes, the soot on her face, the ledger ash on her hands. "Not exactly the future you planned," he said. Elena sat beside him. For the first time since the church, silence felt gentle. "No," she answered. "Better." Rowan studied her as if searching for permission he did not trust himself to take. She solved it for both of them, leaning in slowly, giving him every chance to step back. He didn't. It tasted of smoke, rain, and exhausted relief, and it carried the fragile wonder of two people meeting after the worst versions of themselves had already been seen. Somewhere behind them, cameras clicked, radios crackled, men shouted over paperwork and evidence tags. But on the riverbank, in the thin gold light after violence, Elena understood something she had mistaken all her life. Love was not the hand that closed around your choices. It was the one that opened when you ran and stayed open when you decided to return. She rested her forehead against Rowan's. The future ahead was uncertain, dangerous, probably watched. It was also hers.